Hey guys, so I'm going to be covering a few topics I found reading the book 50 Things Every Young Gentleman Should Know by John Bridges and Brian Curtis. I'd like to say that most of these tips are manners and etiquette, and many of the ladies watching could benefit from this video also. Now, this video is going to be a bit different as I'm going to offer many tips instead of just explaining big ideas. The first is saying please. Now, we probably all take saying please for granted. A young gentleman says please whenever he is asking someone for something, whether that is an item, a favor, or even advice. Not only is it polite, but it also removes the possibility of sounding rude or sarcastic when you're asking for something. Also, never ever think that just because someone is doing their job, that they don't deserve appreciation and a kind please. Just because hotel maids are paid to clean your room, it doesn't hurt to ask them please to do something, or especially thank them, which is our next tip. As a gentleman in today's world, you are bound to receive all kinds of compliments. The best way you can accept a compliment is to say thank you. You don't need to go on and on thanking them for thanking you. Certainly don't brush them off either. If you recently got a haircut and someone compliments you on it, don't say, "Oh, the missus made me get it," or "Yeah, but they missed a spot in the back." Simply look them straight in the eyes and thank them. Another way of thanking someone is by writing them a handwritten letter. These are grossly underestimated in today's electronic world. My grandmother still has conversations with me through snail mail, and I think it's pretty cool. I applied and received a job at a local factory a few months ago, and I wrote the CEO a handwritten letter thanking him for the job opportunity. I did this because I read the advice out of one of the books I've been reading, and I wanted to try it out. A couple days later, he walks in, shakes my hand, and starts expressing his gratitude. He starts talking about the last time he received a letter like this, and we had a pretty cool conversation. Now, this was a great networking opportunity for me that not very many other people who received the job would have. You should always write letters on special note cards and not on the old crinkly notebook paper. I recommend finding something you appreciate in someone and writing them a note at least once a week, and especially for anyone who buys you a meal or gives you tons of value. It means a lot and is more impressionable and lasts longer than any email. Now let's talk about excusing yourself. Young gentlemen know to step out of a room if they have to pass gas. Also, when you're excusing yourself from a crowd, you can try to alternate between excuse me and pardon me to avoid awkward, repetitive words. And when you're calling someone, don't yell things like, hey you! Instead, say excuse me when trying to get someone's attention. A tip the book gives is to learn the cultural and regional ways to address different people. Titles such as ma'am, sir, and madam can go a long way if the person is not used to it. When you're introducing two people, always try to introduce the younger person to the older person. Instead of saying, hey John, this is my dad. Say, hey Dad, this is my friend John, and if you can, add something interesting to make the introduction memorable and exciting. Also, when you're shaking hands, always allow the older person or a lady to stick their hand out first. And when you're sitting, always stand up to shake someone's hand. This is simply a respect statement. If, for some reason, you can't shake hands right now, explain why. For example, you might have grease on your fingers from fixing a motorcycle. Lastly, never ever make a comment about someone's handshake unless they bring it up first. Don't comment on their overly strong or overly weak handshake, as this could come off rude. When a gentleman receives a gift he enjoys, he kindly thanks the giver. A gentleman never says statements such as, oh, you shouldn't have. The same goes for any gift a gentleman doesn't like. They respectfully thank the giver, as the gentleman knows that a gift from the heart is way more valuable than one from the wallet. The book says to never compare gifts, as it can hurt feelings and cause bitterness between people. When a gentleman is winning a game, they never flaunt their victory, and when they are losing, they don't throw a fit. Either way the game goes, a gentleman always thanks the opposing side at the end of the game. Another thing I could relate to in this book is that a gentleman doesn't give up halfway through a game, even when it is completely obvious who the winner is. Always give 100% as a gentleman. One thing that all great gentlemen know is for their appearance. Keep your nails trimmed and your hair cut fashionably. Learn how to iron dress clothes if you don't already know. And learn a couple different ways to tie a tie. Also, the book says not to feel ashamed if you aren't good at matching clothes. Simply ask someone else for their opinion. Or you can head over to the subreddit Male Fashion Advice for tips and tricks on dressing well. A gentleman knows it's okay to compliment the other gender, even if they're in a relationship. Especially if the person they're complimenting is doing a great job at something. A gentleman will jump to hold the door open for anyone, especially if it's a car door and a lady is riding. And a gentleman always puts the seat down. Always. Lastly, I'd like to talk about movie theater etiquette. The goal of a movie theater is to enjoy the movie. A gentleman is always thinking of others and must think ahead when they're watching a movie. Make sure to avoid drinking lots of liquids or spicy food before a movie to avoid constant bathroom breaks. If you're sick and have a terrible cough, consider postponing the movie or sit by the door to leave quicker. And also, a gentleman makes sure to arrive early and turn off their phone. Now, I'd like to say that I hardly covered 25 of the 50 tips in this book, but I believe anyone who takes these steps are on the right path to becoming a great gentleman. If you enjoyed this video, click the like button. If you want to watch my review of The Art of Manliness coming up soon, subscribe. Thanks for watching, and you might want to check out my video on No More Mr. Nice Guy, and some of my other videos on my channel. I hope you enjoyed.